Well, with Congress coming back next week into session, House Republicans are expected to vote on the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. As it sounds, this is a bill that would keep biological males out of girls and women's sports, as well as their private spaces. And, you look back at this over the years, and quite frankly, many folks, myself included, would never have anticipated that transgender issues would play such a prominent role in legislation even a decade ago. But the intensity from the left over this is just taken over the Democratic Party, and therefore it demands a reaction. We've got to respond to this. We saw the rage of the left just last week when NCAA champion swimmer Riley Gaines was literally assaulted by protesters at San Francisco State University as she argued against biological men being allowed to compete against women and girls. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Mary Beth Waddell. She's the Director of Federal Affairs for Family and Religious Liberty here at the Family Research Council. Mary Beth, great to have you in studio. Thank you for all you do, and we're honored to have you.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Jenny.
Well, listen, let's just begin with why in the world is this bill that the House is going to be looking at next week? Why is it even necessary in terms of how did we get here? It's just stunning to me that we're even dealing with these issues.
Absolutely. You already hit on a lot of this. It is really kind of shocking how important this bill is right in this moment. We've seen over the years a number of biological males competing in what should be biological women's sports and taking titles, taking scholarships, taking opportunities. And this administration and, others have not, schools, the NCAA, they've not done anything to try and protect these women. And so Congress is stepping in to say we need to protect women and Title IX and what it was meant to protect and make sure that women have equality of opportunity, they're safe, and all of these things.
Yeah, not only have they not stepped in to protect, they have literally been on the other end of the spectrum pushing this whole transgender stuff in women's sports, and even to the extent, and I know hearings I was at, we can't even define a woman anymore on the left in this country. So this particular bill that the House is going to be looking at not only protects just the women's sports, but the whole private space issue as well. Is that correct?
Right. All athletic programs have to be done via strictly biological sex. The only things that it would make sure are okay is if you have co-ed teams, that's perfectly fine because that's understood that men and women are on co-ed teams. And if the women want to scrimmage against the men because they know the men are better and it's going to improve their skills, they can do that. But you're not allowed to give a biological male a spot or a roster spot that's meant for a woman, which, yes, is going to get to ensuring that locker rooms are safe, that housing when you're traveling is safe. You're not going to have to share a bed with someone who's biologically male and identifies as transgender.
It's still just as stunning to me that we're even here. Do you have any clue, understanding how this issue has so dominantly taken over the Democratic Party? What in the world has possessed them, if you will, to embrace something that is so contrary to science as well as just common sense?
That's a great question. I think, there's just blinders and deception that has crept in from just hearing activists and even, there's even demonic elements, I think, to this, with just having blinders on your eyes to seeing the truth that the enemy has placed there. As you were commenting earlier, this administration is on the opposite side of this. They've recently published notice of proposed rulemaking that they want to change Title IX. And so this comes right in hand.
Just to clarify for our viewers and listeners real quickly, Title IX. What are we talking about here?
Title IX was created 50 years ago to give women equality women athletes. At the time, that was 1972, there were only 300,000 female athletes nationwide.
Wow.
And right now, you have 3.2 million high school female athletes.
Wow.
And so that has done so much for women to give them equality of opportunity. And even our rights to vote are only 100 years old. And so this is not a time to be going back on women's rights.
So 50 years, all the women's sports really got kicked off.
Yes.
And now the attempt is to totally pull the rug out from under the feet of all these women athletes. So with that, what do you take? Last week, I'm sure you saw it. Riley Gaines speaking at San Francisco State University, shouted down, and all she was there doing was standing up for women competing with other women in sports. I mean, how more simple can you get? But she was shouted down, all this sort of, and then literally assaulted afterward. What does that tell us about the left and their passion, their willingness to go to what lengths to defend this cause?
Yeah, I think it's just, you're seeing this vitriolic response that is uncalled for, and I think shows the deception and the blindness that's been placed over people's eyes. Riley, I've had the opportunity to meet her. I was able to introduce her at an event for the 50th anniversary last year of Title IX. She's wonderfully well-spoken, very poised, very kind. So you wouldn't think that she would elicit such a reaction. She's just telling her story and what happened to her. But yeah, I think it just shows the vitriol. And even from those within the LGBTQ community who are part of this, I think it shows just that there really is a wound underneath that they're trying to protect. Because when you come close to it, there is a vitriolic reaction. And so I think it even gets to that as well.
Wow. Oh, listen, we've got less than a minute to go here, but there's some good movement across the country in different state legislatures dealing with this issue. Can you real quickly just highlight some of those for us?
Sure. And these bills are much broader than even the sports issue. They get at preventing any of these gender ideology and these gender quote-unquote treatments and procedures for children, things like that. We now have 13 bills that have been signed into law. And right now we have Nebraska that is really fighting for their bill. Some of the senators there have really dug in and trying to filibuster anything and everything, yet that bill has just made its way through it to the last stage now of debate, and so we need to just continue praying for that. And Missouri is on the cusp as well of passing a similar bill.
Fantastic. Mary Beth Waddell, thank you for all you do and for keeping us up to speed on all this. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch this evening.
Great to be here.